Welcome to the Future Podcast.
Hey
great to
guys.
have you with us. And we've got our lovely wives here who we would love to introduce formally. Maybe we haven't yet. I'm sure you've seen them.
Yeah, if
on
you
the
guys don't know.
podcast. Yes. Who are you? My beautiful wife?
Hi, I'm Kazue. I'm originally from a city called Hiroshima in Japan. And I became a Christian when I was studying in the UK, when I was at uni. And I started going to church when I came back to Japan. I started going to Luke and Izumi's church in Osaka about 15 years ago.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Awesome.
Cool. And this is my lovely wife, Izumi.
Hello.
So if you guys don't know, Izumi,
This
you want
is
to just
Izumi.
introduce yourself?
I'm married to Luke, and
Thank you.
obviously,
I'm a very lucky guy.
I grew up in Sydney. I was born in Japan. Grew up in Sydney from 4 to
North Shore.
North Shore.
Boom.
West Pimble, 4 to 21 years
Represent.
old. I became a Christian just before I came to Japan. I got baptized with my mom, which was really good, and then I came to Japan and I started joining a church and then met Luke at that time, but we weren't really romantically attracted.
We're just getting
friends.
straight into there.
We're just friends.
You're leading with that, are you? All right. Okay. Fair enough.
We are friends, and then
That's
and
not the story that I like to tell. Just love at first sight, guys.
yeah. Then fast forward a few years later, we met each other again, and Luke started a church in Osaka, and we started dating, and we got engaged.
It's much more romantic when I tell this story. I feel
It's
like.
gonna be long, so I just
Okay, fair enough.
making it short. So,
Yeah.
and then I moved to Osaka, started leading church with Luke. Amazing church together for 14 years. 14 years. Yeah, 14 years.
Yeah.
And now we're gonna dream again and start a church in Brisbane. I'm very, very excited.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, Izumi. Great to have you here.
Yeah. Oh, it's fun. So we're really excited to hear all the wisdom from our wives. It's really where all the ideas come from.
It's really when I got married that the church started to grow. Before that, it was a little shaky. So
It's true, it is helpful. And
Yep.
today we're going to be talking about a very important subject to us, really central to who we are as just human beings, as Christians, but also as a church, like what we want to do. And we're going to be talking about church planting. So do you want to get us started, Luke, with your big thoughts about where we're going with church planting?
yeah, church planting, a huge deal for us. We feel very passionate about it. Really coming back to Australia to plant a church. But really, larger than that, our vision is really not just for Future Church. Our vision is to plant many, many churches, both in Australia and also throughout Asia and, God willing, beyond that. But we have a huge heart for unreached cities and unreached people groups and the next generation who haven't heard the gospel yet. And just the best way to really get the gospel going forward is through church planting and church planners. So we're just really excited. I mean, I got an opportunity to plant a church when I was 21 years old. My senior pastor at the time, Rod Plummer, believed in me to give me an opportunity. He called it a good risk. It was a risk, but it was a good risk.
Yeah.
I had been serving in church in many of the different areas of church. I was leading outreaches, had led many different small groups. I think my friends and I brought 100 people to church that first year. And so we... it was a good risk, I guess, but I was young. I was 21 years old at the time. And so we got sent out and Tim was part of that team that came. I think I was 21 and you were 18, I think was the age group. So
right.
that's kind of how we got our start. So I guess for us now, we're thinking about who's the next 21-year-old or who's the next, young couple that we are wanting to, send out and plant churches, I don't think I'm a superstar that I was the only one that could do it. Definitely not. Like there's other, there's people sitting in, I think, every church in Australia who could plant a church.
Yeah.
If they were mentored and walked through and had a good process and was set up for a win. There'd be thousands of young church planters, and that's our heart to help as many as we can plant churches.
So isn't there enough churches in Australia? Like sending someone out of every church to plant a church? Isn't Australia a Christian nation? Is it?
Yeah. Well,
Can we just say that?
yeah, sure. So right now in Australia we have 13,000 churches. I think is the official number, somewhere around there, with around 1.8 million people in church. So average size around 140. That's including some of the really bigger churches that we have in Australia. So that's around. I think it's around. I think the figure is 12%, or it could be 16 or something like that percent. It's somewhere between 10 and 20% of people go to church, which is actually a lot of people when you think about it. It's actually more people go to church than go to rugby league, union, AFL, soccer, and some of the other sports all together.
That's a big statement for Australia.
Which is basically Australia's God.
Love our sports.
Love our sports.
Yeah, so
there's a lot of people who go to church. There's also a new generation of young people coming through who don't know God. And there's a group of millennials who just have never been to church as well.
Right.
We've got this next generation coming through who I really love. We're going to talk about them soon. They're just amazing. And we want to build the church for the next generation. Every generation needs a way of church planting. So for us to be able to, let's say that we want to plant, let's say we want to double this stem in our lifetimes.
Sure. Yeah.
What we have in Australia, let's reach for something significant and say we want to see another 10,000 churches planted in Australia, and then from Australia into Asia, specifically unreached cities, in our lifetime. If we're going to do that, we're going to have to become way more strategic and really intentional about planting a significant amount of churches, because many of our churches will close that we have currently.
Right.
Some of them need to be renewed with new pastors and new leadership teams. But really, we do need a whole bunch of new church plants and new styles of church planting. One style is not going to get it done. So one brand name church is not going to get it done. And we all know this. But we want to see many more people released into church planting with all different styles. We celebrate the styles, celebrate the differences, because we're all going to reach different kinds of people. But we want to help have a platform for people to be able to plant churches rather than just reproduce future church brand names and ask managers to implement compliance.
Right, yeah. So maybe can you speak a little bit about some models we have seen and like how we want to do things maybe differently? So you say, do we want to do Future Church Adelaide? Is that the goal? Future Church?
Yeah.
Sydney or...
So in the last 20 years, we've seen the rise of the megachurch and the rise of campus models. And I think I was talking to a young pastor just recently, and he said, when I think about success, I think about me having many campuses. And I just think that's one model, and I think that I was a little surprised to hear that.
Right.
That's the only model of success that we have right now. I don't think it actually is, but that was the biggest model of success. All the churches that I look to for success are you need to have many campuses and multiply yourself.
Yep.
And for me, that's just never been a desire of my heart. I really don't value having my name on things. It's just not in my value system, I guess. I don't care if it's Future Church. I don't care that our logo's on it. I don't care that my jersey is on that player. I really want to see the kingdom of God go forwards, and I think it's for me. This is my conviction, is that that's small thinking. If I want my brand name on everything, I need to raise up sons and daughters in the faith and send them into what God has for them. And if that's to really stay close with me and to take all of that stuff, then we'd be open to that. Especially in the same city, it makes sense to share resources. I get that, and I understand why we're doing it with the amount of support. But my heart is, I will just give the support anyway. I'd be happy to give the support without my brand name. And I think that's the heart of the kingdom of God, is you'll get the support, but I don't need the credit. And I think if we're going to make a massive difference in the world, we're going to have to get less concerned with credit and getting the honor, and we're going to have to get way more concerned with just getting it moving,
Releasing people.
Because we don't have the time.
Sure.
We've got one life, and I think we need to start moving, and I think that's a much healthier way. To me, it's very stressful to need the credit for everything.
Right.
I just don't want to live like that. So that's what we've done with you guys and other people. It would have been much more beneficial for us, for Izumi and I, to keep you guys in our church.
Sure.
That would have been much better. If our goal was to have the biggest church in the city, if that was our only goal, then that's that's what we would have done. But after 10 years, yes, we had the biggest church in the city, but that was really a byproduct, I think, of the heart, of the overflow of just, we sent out many church planners.
Yes.
And our church was still blessed.
Yeah.
Still had a room full of leaders in every room. So I just think that's the kingdom of God. It's not a pie, it's a river. It just flows.
Yeah, I love it.
And if you give out, God will give you more.
I like how you said it's like a pie. No, it's not like a pie. It's not like a pie. Sorry, it's not like a pie. It's like a river.
Yeah.
Because like if you're focused on building the church, making your church bigger and making your name bigger, I think we start to think very like territorial, like
right.
This is our church, and when a new church comes in your city, you're feeling like insecure. But
right.
I think if the focus is we want more churches, and it's like a river, then I think we'll get excited about other churches coming.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's a huge thing. There's no room for being territorial. If we need 10,000 more churches, I mean,
you can have someone down the road and down the road a bit further.
Yeah.
And I think a big thing I've been thinking about, even when we were talking this week, is like, if we talk about what is the church, and we've been saying how it's people, and I think we know that, but it's also the community. And every church will, because it has different people, will have different flavors and different styles. And when you try pigeonhole each church to be the same, that's not even helpful because first of all, you don't want to reach the same people. You want to reach different people because that's how we're going to see the church grow and like reach. There's a lot of people not in church still, many more than are in church. So like the vision is still huge in Australia.
Yes. And
not just that, but there's also like these cool little flavors that are going to come out from different people's gifting in church. Like, oh wow, this person has this kind of musical style or this ability, and it could take on a whole nother little flavor, that's the expression of church, because it's people being gifted and being special. So
and adding
cool.
that fact that it's the people on mission, it's community on mission. How they are reaching their community will shape a lot of what the church looks like.
Yeah, definitely.
What kind of outreaches they need to do to reach their community is a really beautiful picture of what the church needs to look like to make it work, to do it. And that's the kingdom. It's really different, but it's but there's a heart, there's a generous heart. We've been talking about this. The heart of generosity is at the center of why we want to do church planning, is because it's not all about us. Yeah. And I think we got to have that heart. It's not about us. It's about others. Yeah. So, and as we give to others, we ourselves are just so fulfilled. And there's a great scripture I love. I think it's in James, and it says, your joy, like we've loved to share this message of hope with you, and your joy has doubled our joy. It's like what you gave away actually came back to you in double.
Yep.
And whether that's leadership or finance or just like supporting a new church plant. What do you think is going to happen in our church? Our church is going to become bigger and stronger in a mother church, a grow-up church, an empowering church. So it's only going to do good for our church to send church planters, even though it's a little bit painful in the moment. Sure. Long term, it's just so much blessing there.
I love it. I love that we're talking about this before we even started because we're still planting, but that's just so core and so central to who we want to be and what we want to do, is just equip. And I guess what this really boils down to, what it means to like church plant, really it means we're going to raise up leaders and send out people. Like these are people we want to invest in and help grow. And the best thing is we can be in relationship and we can have friendship and help each other. And then it's as the kingdom grows, I mean, there's no better feeling than seeing God's kingdom grow, even if it has different banners and
Definitely,
brand names.
definitely.
So.
Do you remember those days that, I remember the days so clearly, and I wrote about this in the book, The Future of Church. I remember sending out these guys and sending out, two other couples who we love dearly, Japanese couples, amazing people. And do you remember those days? To me, it was their emotional days. Like so good, right?
Like sending them, yeah.
Yeah. Like praying for them on a stage.
Yeah.
I remember how I felt.
Yeah, how did you feel?
Honestly, I was holding back the tears, honestly, because
Right.
I was like,
Joy.
like a dream come true.
Yeah.
It was like my dreams coming true today.
Right, that's cool.
This is why I came here.
Yeah, actually, I felt the same. I was very excited and also, emotional in a way, like in a good way. Like I was like, like I can see them building a great church but at the same time, it was like I'm gonna miss them so much. But
Yeah.
because I love having them in our church. But also I thought about the potential that they can. They're gonna build a church in Kobe, and then people are gonna come and they're gonna meet. Like they're gonna have like lives change and get married, and like that more potentials. Like that's more exciting than just keeping them. Just with us. And
Yeah.
so that was really exciting.
What was that like for you? Because you've been very quiet. That's usually my job, to be the quiet one on the podcast.
Yeah, I remember just thinking about back in the days, and I thought Luke and Izumi took a great deal of risk to give us this city called Kobe to lead a church.
Just generously.
And
Just gave you the city.
and we didn't have. They told us that we didn't have to be perfect, and like we can be us, like we can have our own style, and they sent us.
Yeah, it was an adventure, wasn't it? And I guess when was that? So it was 2014.
Yeah.
We've been married a few years.
Just pull that mic up a little bit further. Just
Might
a little
need to be a
closer.
bit closer.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah. Yeah, so before that, I guess the road to that was all part of the journey. It's like we were serving in the Osaka church.
Yeah.
And in a bunch of different areas and trying out things. I led the worship team for a while, which was a mess. The worship team was fine. Well, and
Great hearts.
good heart. It was in the early days, and then we passed it on to someone better who can play the instrument better, and then got to lead a bunch of different areas. Connect groups or our life groups, our small groups, and follow up new Christians, and Kazue got to lead as well, connect groups and things. So kind of we went out with a pretty good foundation.
Yeah.
It was a risk, and it was we were nervous, but we were really equipped as well as we could have been for that point of time. And
we spent a lot of time on the phone, didn't we?
Yes.
In that first year, how much time did we spend on the phone, just
Definitely.
talking through?
Every Sunday night after, just a little debrief.
Yeah.
Afterwards,
and so I think church planning can sound really scary, and in some ways it is definitely scary. One of the biggest things you can ever do in your life, but I think it's something every Christian should experience, is being part of a church plan at some point, because it just changes your perspective. If you don't bring no one's coming. That's church planning. And it's just riveting, makes you feel alive. We are on the front lines of pushing the kingdom of God into places it hasn't been before. And I just really love that. And we've got to give people a lot of support. I feel like financially, we're slowly getting a clue with how to do this better. And I think that the Christian world is also finally realizing, okay, we need to start churches stronger than we did before. There is a certain point where you get to where a church is self-sufficient, and actually one day we'll be able to plant more churches. And in Australia, from from all the people I talk to, it's around 100 people.
Right.
But for us, you know, we think, well, why don't we just start on day one, the very first service we do? Why don't we start with 100? And then from there we can just build and have strength to offer other people, rather than just be struggling for years. So if we can help people start stronger, both financially, with team, with strategy, with building community first before we do services, from what we talked about, from digital to community to adding services as the last thing we do, by the time we get there, we can actually start with strength. But this is a model that can really work. And it's what we're doing. And we've seen other people do in Australia as well. So I think we're going to give people a lot more support than they got 20, 30 years ago.
Right. And I think the struggle model, like I think maybe we've been through that, build something, guts, but I think maybe, I don't know, what do you think? Is that a really important part of starting a church? Like, should you struggle for 5 years and then that builds some kind of diamonds, or is there a better way?
Well, I just think it's going to be a struggle regardless, mate.
Sure. Yeah.
We don't have to manufacture struggle for you. It's going to be hard. So a lot of church plants don't work. Right. But I feel like they probably could have. You almost can predict that pretty well through how they're set up for success and the leader. Right. You know, just because we have a heart for church planting and we want to plant 10,000 churches or help that happen, doesn't mean we're saying yes to every person who wants to plant a church.
Right.
Maybe you're not ready. Maybe you don't have the right character. Maybe there's things in your life that will actually hurt you when you plant a church or hurt other people. So we're going to do that. But we want to help people set up. We're not trying to create it. We're not trying to make it harder than it used to be. You remember, the story of Saul trying to give David his armor.
Right.
He was like, okay, I will let you do it. I will let you have a go, but you got to wear my jersey.
Yeah.
I almost think like it was a huge crowd, maybe, hundreds of thousands of people maybe. Maybe he almost thought, okay, let's do this. And David, maybe people will think that's me out there fighting.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. Maybe. He was so into himself.
Sure.
He was so all about himself. He was like, you can do it, but make sure you wear my team jersey so everyone knows you're with me. Yeah. And I just think David just wasn't interested in that. Yeah. He was more interested in defending God and getting a win for the people. He wasn't about the title and the position. And I mean, he cared about the rewards, but he wasn't trying to... he had a very different mindset than Saul, say.
Sure.
So, you're going to have challenges. David had challenges fighting, he had to step into the ring.
Yes.
No one can save you from that. There will be spiritual battles. There will be, you've got to go and reach people. You've got to go meet people. You get out there. You've got to overcome the days where you feel like quitting. And we've all had those days, right?
Sure. Yeah, that's great. So just not making the bar even higher than it needs to be.
Right.
It's just really releasing people.
And one of the ways we've done that in the past is financially. We've sent people out and just said, you just make it. Like, you just have a go, and if you fail...
have the calling, you're going to...
Yeah, that's right. If you're called, you'll make it.
Yeah.
Well, maybe some people who were called didn't make it because they didn't have enough support. So I think we need to start stronger. Yes. Is what we're saying. We're going to start stronger. We want to help people start stronger. And I feel like the churches who start stronger will be able to plant more churches.
So that's the long term.
Yes.
And I guess the world has also changed in the last 30 years, and there's new challenges and different aspects to church planning. So I think giving people the best start is never a disadvantage.
Yep.
That's it. That's really exciting.
Yeah.
Great. Yeah, I love that illustration about David. Never heard it put that way before, with Saul's armor. And I think I really experienced that, or felt that, when we sent us out. I guess I was looking at the model that I've seen. It's not bad. I think every single leader experiences this at some point, where you imitate someone, and I was like trying to lead how you led.
Right.
But in actual fact, we were very different.
We are,
like,
yeah.
personality wise and leadership wise, and in a
Yeah.
lot of ways, very, very different. And it took me a while to figure out, oh, you know what, this is not working because it's not me. And just figuring out, okay, I'm much more relational. Not that you're not relational.
Tell us what you really think now.
I'm a bit nicer.
I mean, just because you're strong in just because you're strong in something doesn't mean that other people are not. It just means it's a strength.
Yes.
And you are really strong relationally. Like, you're an incredible pastor. And I just don't know anyone who doesn't love Tim. Like, I always say that, but I just don't know anyone who doesn't love Tim.
Very likable.
Because he has that personality that just makes you feel connected and like appreciated and valued when you get around him. And that's a gift. Not everyone has that gift. And it's a great pastoral gift. I mean, it's a great thing to build a church around, a community around. So it's really awesome, man.
Yeah, well, it took a long time to figure that out. And I think there's a few people that listen to this podcast that maybe don't like my breathing, my little laugh, because I don't like it when I listen back to it. Just trying to go through the audio, I'm like, oh, you're killing me. But there was definitely a journey there of like, okay, figuring this out and trying it out and being like, oh, that's not working. But when I do it this way, it feels right. It feels good. And that's like the gifting God's put in my life to lead. And part of that was just trying and failing. And and Kazue as well, again, is really different to me. What would you say your gifting is, Kazue?
Yeah,
What's the best thing about you?
Personality is very different.
We are very
When we
different.
take personality test, it's always complete opposite. And yeah, I think my biggest gifting is evangelism.
Yeah, for sure.
Telling my friends about Jesus. That's something I naturally do, and that was also a journey to find out, because for the first few years when they sent us to Kobe to build a church for church planting, for the first few years I was struggling to be like Izumi, because that was the closest model I've seen for the last 7 years, and yeah, but I couldn't because I'm not Izumi. And I thought, like, I can be myself. I can still be myself, and then also lead the church, and also different from Tim as well. And that's why we're a good team, and figuring out
Sure.
how to lead a church in our own style. We don't have to be someone else. But
Yeah, I really discovered a bunch of gifting for Kazue. Like,
Yeah.
a lot of, I mean, people around Kazue just want to meet Jesus. I think that's because Kazue is so
incredible.
awesome. It's like, oh, what has this person's got that's so different? And as well as just, you started this, one of the best outreaches you started was an Instagram account for mums. And I think hundreds of mums got connected with our church, came to events just through Kazue posting stuff and then connecting with them, making events. And it was a real gift, and it was a blessing to our church. But it was a bit of a journey discovering all those things and figuring out and trying different things. And
So would you say when you started, like, maybe letting go of trying to be someone else and just being yourself and letting God sort of use you as you are, did the church do better, and did you guys feel happier?
yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely. Because when we were trying to be someone else or someone we know, especially like we had great role models, but we can never be them. And so we could never, we can be the best of ourselves, but we couldn't be Luke or Izumi.
Yeah.
So when we stopped trying to be someone else and just seeking our gifting and finding out what we were good at, I think that's when like church really started to grow, and and we also loved it too. We enjoyed leading church, and
that was probably the biggest difference. It's probably we were happier.
yeah.
I think church we had great people and great teams, but just we've slotted into the right spot, and it was just more fun, like it should be.
Yep.
And there's tough times, but I think it's just a lot more good times. So
Yeah, awesome.
yeah,
So one of the most important things of church planning is you got to have good friends, and I'm super thankful that I have amazing friends and really have helped me through church planning the high points and the low points, you need great friends, and you guys have been great friends. And just so planning church together with your best friends is like the best thing ever. So I guess I just want to hear from the girl side, like how important is friendship, and what's the friendship look like for you guys as maybe as pastors' wives, a little bit different, or what's it look like?
I think the earlier days, I felt like I was like missing a puzzle in a way, because like when we church planting, I'm getting encouragement from God, like reading the Bible. He encourages me, he inspires me, and then I get encouragement from Luke. We can talk, we can pray together, and then another part was I was leading people. These people were new Christians, non-Christians, but they look up to me as a leader. So I only had to focus on those relationships at the beginning, and I totally missed out on having just like a friend that I can talk about, share my struggles or my challenges. Because like people who I'm leading, I was always very careful that I don't want to share what I'm going through when I'm going through it, especially that I don't want to stumble them. I don't want them to feel like is she okay? So I was at the beginning. I wasn't even noticing that I needed a friend. Like I felt very satisfied, but But then I started to think that maybe I need like more people in my life that I can just share. And besides Luke and God, like I also need someone I can share that they can also pray for me. They can give me advice. They're ahead of the journey and then, I think I remember like Luke was telling me about being more intentional with friendship, that if I just wait, no one's going to come and reach out to me. Like some people might, but they're not really sure if I want to talk to that person. But you encouraged me to just approach someone. Like I can choose my friends, and not necessarily doesn't need to be in the same church, especially when the church is really early.
Right.
Like, it was so amazing when a few years later when Kazue was going to go to Kobe, like I felt finally like I can talk to Kazue, like that I can be open, I can share my mistakes, I can share my challenges. Like, but until that level, like I was feeling like, oh, who can I share? And
interesting. And
it was really nice that it was really nice that I can have some friends outside church that doing like way ahead of a journey. Doesn't necessarily need to be my age group. Like even like someone who's more wise, or someone I respect, and even right now, like when we're trying to plant a church in Brisbane, I'm getting a lot of encouragement from people like Pastor Sue from New Hope. Like she really encouraged me. Yeah,
she's amazing.
And she said, like if you just feel like wanting to talk to someone, like I'm here for you.
Yeah. And
that made a real difference. Like, not that I always want to call her and share my problems, but knowing that I have someone like that in my life, and that she fully supports me, like having that confidence, like also, really good. And also I have other friends who are like pastoring in a different state in Australia, and I know that like we can talk and stuff. So having those kind of people in our lives is really, really important. And I guess intentional is the key word, because I noticed that if we just wait, you're just going to feel like no one's reaching out to you and can feel lonely. But if you reach out, then they are also happy, and also they can also contact you. So I think that's really like you need to be very proactive, I think. Yeah. Not just waiting.
Intentional is key word, hey. It was interesting that I guess like what you thought about, I don't want to talk to people because I don't want to stumble them. I think that's interesting. Like in Japan, it's an interesting dynamic where you have people who don't know anything about Jesus, and people do look up to you as perfect, and that's a real problem.
Yeah, that's true.
Here, and we've actually got to break that down, because the moment you make a mistake, it's like it's like a big deal, right? Sure. And we all make mistakes, so we've actually got to work towards bringing down that gap between the pastor, that man of God syndrome, where the pastor's way out there and I'm way down here. That's just unhelpful to discipling a generation. But I think if you're in a performance culture, it's very difficult to make mistakes. but here's what I will say about this. I think generationally, we've noticed this as well. If you look at keywords of leadership for generations, I think it paints a really interesting picture and a hopeful picture for the future, because the keyword for leadership in the boomers generation was about power leadership.
Right.
Example, attitude. I mean, you look at the leadership books, right? Management, attitude, leadership, be out in front, be confident, put on a good face, you be in control.
Power tie. The
Power tie. Exactly.
Yeah.
And you saw that in the church. Okay. Next generation, which is our generation, the millennial generation, the key word is empower. Don't micromanage us, trust us. Trust us, train us and trust us to do the job. We want a lot of feedback, but we also want a lot of trust. So
freedom as well.
Freedom, empower us to do it, which means give us the power to be able to make decisions. That's a keyword. Okay, for Gen Z, which generation I'm super excited about, their keyword is what's the keyword?
Collaborative.
It's collaboration. Yes, yes, Tim. Thank you. It's collaboration. So let's do it together. It's collaboration and inspiration. So that's some of their key thoughts. Is we do leadership by inspiring other people, inspiring people by not being perfect, by actually seeing, I have challenges, but I'm overcoming. I'm not perfect, but I'm overcoming. That's inspiring. It's way more inspiring than the person who's perfect. Right. So, and it's also collaborative. Say, let's work out this problem together. It's not me go home and then I'll work it out in my cave and then I'll tell everyone. I'll send out an email and you all know what to do.
Actually, that reminded me that I was making that mistake myself.
Right.
That I thought I shouldn't share to people, right? But later on, I noticed that actually when I when I have challenges, it's okay to show, like not hide, but show. But what people wanted to see was my attitude towards that challenge, like when I'm going through.
Right.
Yeah.
And people felt closer to me when I actually said, "Yeah, I'm going through this right now, but I'm holding on to it," or even asking for them to pray for me. I remember leading the Connect group when Kazue was inside the Connect group, and I couldn't really find a job.
Yeah,
I was job hunting, and I have to lead the Connect group while I was job hunting and getting all the I didn't pass again kind of thing.
Yeah.
And
I remember like 50 interviews or something crazy.
Yeah. Kazue actually went more.
Yeah, you guys are like
she had the same experience.
Gold and
she
silver
had to
medal.
come to Connect group with that kind of like bad news, right?
Right.
But I thought if I rock up showing that everything's fine and I'm okay, how could people like Kazue going through the same challenge, they might feel, I shouldn't come to Connect group because I'm having a hard time. I thought so I should be honest and we can overcome this together and pray together. So that mindset change really changed my style of leadership. Now you just reminded me.
Yeah.
And even when I had kids, I had a day that I was late to my Connect group because I had to discipline my child. And then everyone's like, "Oh wow,
Struggle's
even
real.
you have struggles with parenting."
Our kids are perfect because we're pastors, and pastors' kids are perfect. You guys know that, right?
I said, "Sorry, I had to get off the train and I had to discipline my child." And I'm sorry. And they were actually relieved to see me like that. They were like, "Oh, yeah, you're human too."
Yeah. It's kind of like that.
Yeah, but the attitude is more important. Like how they see how I approach things.
And how else are people going to learn to overcome challenges if they don't see, their pastors overcoming challenges? Acting like everything's fine. I don't think it's that helpful. Now, of course, there's context to that, and we can talk about that another day. I'm not dumping on people.
There's extremes out there.
Yeah, I'm not dumping on people, and our lives are. We do have good lives. We're not a mess.
Yeah.
Like honestly, God has worked deeply in my life. I've overcome many things, so there should be a trust factor there that. There's some good strong foundations there in our lives, but it doesn't mean I'm not perfect, and it doesn't mean we don't struggle with stuff.
Yeah.
But it does mean we are overcoming one by one, slowly by surely. I heard a pastor say, actually last night, I was listening to a pastor and he said, it's not about perfection, it's about faithfulness. People want to see that you are faithful to overcoming things, not that you're perfect in overcoming things. Not that you can do things perfectly, but you are faithful to wrestle it and move
Yes.
forwards and do it God's way. So, and I think that's very true.
Because you can emulate that. You can't emulate what they did or the perfection.
Right.
But like, their faith is kind of contagious. Like, I could have faith like that.
Right.
And yeah, that's encouraging to see.
It's awesome. Yeah. So I think we're just going to be intentional about raising up church planners, guys. From our church, we'd love to see many, many more churches planted in Australia and Asia. It's a big part of what we're doing. It's a big part of why our church tithes outside of our church, which means we give outside of our church the first tenth into church planting and into other areas of outreach. And but church planting is really a big focus for us. Next generation church planting. This whole podcast is about the way that we're church planting and some of those things. So you can go back and listen. And we also have a book called The Future of Church, and we'd love you to get it. None of that money's coming to me, by the way. It's all going into our church plant. So if you want to support that, that's one way you could do it.
Yeah.
But it's really about raising up the church that we see for the future. Not that we have all the answers, and not that we are the only model by any stretch. There's many people doing great things, but we're definitely coming back to Australia to do something significant for God.
Make a dent.
Yes.
There's work
One
to be
life,
done.
make a dent.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm so excited about church planning, and I love that we got to share this and encourage you, if you're a part of our church, listen to this, that just really think about this and get this in your heart. And it's exciting to be a part of. Maybe it's not you who's going to church plant, but we are going to be all giving towards it, praying towards it.
Yep.
And it's going to change many more people's lives than we could ever do if we built one thing by ourselves.
And maybe it is you who's going to church plant. I think that you should not discount yourself.
Yes.
If God has put a desire for leadership in your life, that's a good thing. Yes. And maybe God's put something a little wild in your heart, a different kind of model, something that's a bit unique. I think you should share with someone.
Yeah, come on.
I would love to be that kind of person that you could share with. This is what God's putting in my heart, and if it's totally, totally in the wrong direction, you need someone to tell you that. Like I need that too. But but chances are, maybe I feel God is stirring something new in the world today, and chances are God's put something in your heart. There's something there.
And a big thing we've been talking about, I think, is also there's not one model.
Yes.
And maybe you've discounted yourself because like, I have a certain persuasion towards this kind of personality, but maybe rethink that. Because if God's put something there, maybe you are the exact person that God wants to use. And I guess we want to empower all types of people to build all types of different
good word, Tim.
That's really
churches for God.
Yes, good word. Hey, thanks girls for joining us. Appreciate you all.
Thanks for having
us.
And
amazing time. We're so thankful we're doing this church plant together.
Yeah,
love it. Can't wait to do many, many more in the future. There's some countries that we love in the world. Can't wait to church plant or send church planters into. Obviously, we love Japan. Our wives are Japanese. Our families are Japanese. We love Japan. It's totally unreached. Definitely will be church planting there in the future. But there's many countries. I feel very strongly about Indonesia. I love Indonesia. We love Vietnam. These are places that we've done things in before and can't wait to church plant in.
Basically, awesome places to go on holiday and good food.
Yes.
But that's pretty much every country.
Yeah. They've got a great beach or great snowboarding, whatever. That's what we like to do. So, yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for joining us. We'll see you in the next episode.
Appreciate you guys. Bye.